Hello again. So, in the last video, I made the comment that I didn't listen to as much 2023 stuff as I probably have, but that doesn't mean that I wasn't discovering new things throughout the year. In fact, I have discovered a lot of music for the first time that I would consider to be personal favorites now, so that's what I want to do with this video right here, and that's to highlight my top 9 favorite discoveries of 2023. And yes, it is only a top 9 because I wanted to keep it consistent with the previous video. That, and I honestly didn't have a whole lot to say about the number 10 spot outside of it's great, it's amazing, it's stunning for 2 minutes. So, yeah. A few rules before I jump right into things. First, I'll only be including one album per artist with one exception, which will make more sense when we get to it. I did this so I could talk about as many unique artists as possible within this list. Truth be told, that was also a rule I implemented in my previous list video, but it wasn't needed at the end of the day, so yeah. Additionally, in order to avoid repeating myself, I won't be including any 2023 releases on here. If you want to see what my favorite 2023 releases are, go watch the previous video. So, without further ado, let's just jump right in. Number 9, Third by Big Star. So, 2023 was the year where I really got into Big Star. I did listen to their first album, number 1 record, last year, but I never bothered to dive deeper into their discography until this year when I saw some people hyping up their final album, Third, and I knew that I had to check it out, and yeah, it's great. What's interesting about this album is how there's really no set track listing. Like, there exists like 3 or 4 different versions of this album, each with a completely different track listing. I chose to listen to the 1978 PVC Records version, and while it does omit some songs, honestly, the flow is so great that I honestly don't care too much about it. I especially love how sad things get towards the end with the 1-2-3 punch of Black Car, Holocaust, and Kangaroo, only to be brought back up with the closing track, Thank You Friends. It's unintentionally genius, and yeah, if you want to check out this album, I say start with the 1978 release, but honestly, I don't think you can go too wrong with any version. Number 8, Shmap and Shmaz by Captain Jazz. Now, before anyone says anything, no, that is not technically the name of this project, but the actual name is like 20-something words long. I'm not saying it, no thanks. Anyways, yeah, this album rocks. Very unpolished, but very passionate. It's basically everything I want in an album like this. What I also love about this project is how short it is. Like, Shmap and Smash is 12 tracks long, but it's only about 31 minutes long. It makes for a quick but crazy fun and re-listenable experience. In the Clear is easily my favorite song on the project, and honestly one of my favorite song discoveries of this year in general. I also want to shout out the 1999 anthology album from this group called Analphabeta Polothology, which compiles Smap and Smash as well as pretty much everything else the group ever recorded into one convenient double album. It's also the only way you can listen to Smap and Smash on streaming, so there's that too. Overall, great album, definitely don't miss out on it. Number 7, Raw Power by Iggy and the Stooges. Well, it took me long enough to listen to this album. I heard Funhouse back in late 2020, and while I did love that album, I never bothered to check out Raw Power until this year. Part of that was because of the mixing. To put it simply, this album has a problem with the mix. You either have the David Bowie mix where everything except the lead guitar and vocals are pushed far back into the mix, or you have the Iggy mix where everything is distorted to all hell. Heck, recently they released a new 2023 Iggy mix which removes the distortion, but now everything sounds a bit neutered, at least in my opinion. I'll leave that discussion towards the comments section, because as far as the actual songs go, they're really great. Like with the previous album, it's super passionate and, well, raw, I guess. Even if I think Funhouse is more raw, but you get the point. Songs like the opening track, Search and Destroy, will destroy you if not listened to at a reasonable volume. And Gimme Danger and I Need Somebody add some additional flavor to the overall track listing. Overall, this album is just a blast to listen to. I can't really recommend a specific mix to anyone because I know everyone has their preferences and all that. So I'll just say go check out whichever mixes are available on streaming. Number 6, Gio Gotti by Boards of Canada. So after getting all over the work of Aphex Twin back in the latter half of 2021, I figured that I'd check out another highly acclaimed IDM act back in 2022 with Boards of Canada and their debut album Music Has the Right to Children. And I definitely loved it, but I didn't fully fall in love with it until this year when I finally decided to check out the follow-up album, 2002's Gio Gotti. Not only did I love that album so much, but it also helped me reinforce my love for Music Has the Right to Children. I'll admit right now that Music Has the Right to Children is my favorite of the two Boards of Canada albums I mentioned, but honestly it's kind of a toss-up as to which one I prefer because they represent two sides of the same coin. Both albums utilize nostalgia, but while Music is a cheerier album, Gio Gotti is ominous, twisted, and quite disturbing at points. There have been entire videos dedicated to dissecting every aspect of this album, all the way down to its total file size. Yeah, really. The vocal samples are more disturbing than they were on Music Has the Right to Be Children, be it on Music is Math or 1969. Alpha Omega is perhaps my favorite song on the album with its urgent beat, and trust me when I say that Magic Window is quite the haunting experience. This is definitely one of those albums that you have to hear for yourself in order to understand what I fully mean by when I say that this is one of those albums that could give you nightmares if you're not careful. Number 5, How It Feels to Be Something On by Sunny Day Real Estate. Okay, so there's this other YouTube channel that I follow. He doesn't upload much, but his videos are pretty interesting to watch. The channel name is Gabe the Critic, and I'll link his channel in the description, but long story short, his most recent review was of this album, How It Feels to Be Something On, and he hits up on a lot of key points in regards to that I mostly share. So if you want to get a good idea of how I feel about this album, check out his review. But to put simply, How It Feels to Be Something On is one of those life-affirming albums that just lifts you up after you listen to it. It's very, and I hate to use this word, but cathartic. And while it didn't fully hit me at first just how stunning this album is, it most certainly has on repeat listens. Some of my favorite songs on here include the serene opening track Pillars, the emotional gut punch of Two Promises, and also the very rocking 100 Million. It's truly something special, and while it's not my favorite discovery of this year, it's still an amazing album that everyone should check out. Number 4, Purple Rain by Prince and the Revolution. So, I know I'm going to get a lot of comments like, oh my god, how did it take you this long to get into Prince? And yeah, I know, it took me a while to get to him. I heard some of his songs on the radio, but that was as far as my depth with Prince was before I checked out Purple Rain in full. And wow, is it amazing. Every song is just incredible, and the production, well, yes, it is very 80s, and that'll turn off a lot of people, I imagine. The songwriting on here is so strong that I can't look past the day of production. I mean, this is one of those albums that have aged in the best way possible. Songs like the opening track, Let's Go Crazy, will have you belting out all the lyrics and just getting turned up. When Doves Cry is an excellent slower track, and of course, I can't mention Purple Rain without talking about the title track, which is just the stuff of music legends. Overall, great songwriting, great hooks, and really, if you've been like me and haven't heard this album at all, please go fix that right now. Purple Rain is truly one of those once-in-a-lifetime albums, an absolute essential for, literally everyone. Number 3, Future Days by Can. Speaking of being introduced to artists this year, 2023 was also the year that I got into the works of German krautrock group Can. Future Days from 1973 was the first Can album I've heard, and this might be first exposure bias, but it's also my favorite of theirs. That or Ege Bemyazi. Part of what I love about this album is actually the exact opposite of Purple Rain, and that's that the production is exquisite and sounds like it hasn't aged a day. Kind of like that other progressive rock album that came out the same year as Future Days, but I digress. What I also love about this album is how, well, loose it is. It sounds like you're relaxing at the beach when listening to this album. I especially love how each song progresses, with the final track, Bel Air, featuring many twists and turns. In contrast, the preceding track, Moonshake, is very concise and has a sick groove behind it. It's quite an amazing experience, and you should definitely check it out if you're at all interested in krautrock. I know some people will say start with Tago Mago, and yeah, maybe that is the better starting place, but I don't know. I just love how concise this one is, and if Tagomago seems a bit intimidating, definitely start at Future Days. So now we've reached the top 2 spots, and I'm going to do something different with this segment and talk about both albums at the same time, because they both come from the same artist, at least to some extent. I am, of course, talking about the first self-titled album from Red House Painters and Ghosts of the Great Highway by Sun Kil Moon. Yeah, this was the year that I got into the work of controversial singer-songwriter Mark Kozlik. Now, Mark as an artist and also as a person has fallen off significantly for a multitude of reasons, but thankfully with his early stuff involving the Red House Painters, as well as the first few Sun Kil Moon albums, it's pretty easy to overlook that quality of Mark, at least in my opinion. Now, I should probably start explaining why both of these albums are so amazing. To put simply, it's the songwriting. Mark's songwriting is at his absolute best with these two albums. With Ghosts of the Great Highway, he utilizes some astonishing guitar tones that just ring throughout the entire album. I never really thought much about guitar tones in a folk-related album like this, but man does it sound pretty. Glenn Tipton opens the album wonderfully with Mark reminiscing on his childhood and early years. Carry Me Ohio is one of 2 fan favorites on here, and it is stunning as well. However, my favorite song on here has to be the other fan favorite, Duck Koo Kim, which is easily the most devastating thing Mark has ever wrote. So with an album that is this emotionally potent and sonically incredible, what makes Roller Coaster better? Well, I think it's the little things. Roller Coaster on the whole has more variety, be it both versions of Mistress, the emotional Katie song, the noisy second half of Funhouse, or the more triumphant penultimate track, Strawberry Hill. It's quite the journey, and like Ghost of the Great Highway, it flows so well. I think closing the album with the short but sweet Brown Eyes seals the deal for me whenever I give Roller Coaster a spin. But both albums are incredible in their own ways. Both are now in my top 10 favorite albums of all time, with Roller Coaster being in my top 5. Overall, incredible albums. Definitely don't miss out on either one. And yeah, that pretty much covers everything I wanted to touch on. I hope you all enjoyed this video. I have several ideas for new videos coming up in the future, and hopefully they'll come to fruition. So with all that said, this has been Kable, and I hope you all have a happy new year. Bye!